We're back. Fourth and final segment of today's show. You're listening to the Fran Halloran Show. I'm Fran Halloran. We've got about 7 or 8 minutes left today, and wanted to get to a couple of things here at the end. On the other side of that break, I was talking about the national debt being $18 trillion. I left out something. Anybody have an idea what the interest is on $18 trillion? It's $9 billion per week.
A week.
A week. That's the interest. $9 billion per week. Wow, that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money, folks. And what I contend is that the example our government is setting is very poor, because the government spends money and then everybody else spends money. Heck, my church, the church that I go to, we just made a decision to go $16-17 million into debt to build a new building, and I'm frankly pretty sick over it. I just don't think that's the way we ought to be doing things. I recognize it's the way the world does business. I get that, but there are better ways. You don't need to be going $16 million in debt to build something. You just don't. The government spends and everyone spends. Churches spend, families spend, friends spend, and this is where I want to go for just a moment with our "that's a bunch of crap" moment. Because let me tell you what, I have done so much stupid in my lifetime with money, it's not even funny. I look in the mirror in the mornings and I see stupid staring me back in the face, because I am mindful of all the dumb I have done with money. And I'm going to tell you, most of the dumb I have done with money in my life, it's because I was influenced by what I like to call a poser. That's right, a poser. Now, here's how I'm defining a poser. People who give everyone the appearance that they have money, but they really don't. And stop acting rich and start living like a real millionaire. This is a book by Thomas Stanley. He's the guy who wrote The Millionaire Next Door. His not a new book anymore, it's been out a few years. But his book, the title of that book is Stop Acting Rich. He details how the less affluent have fallen into the elite luxury brand trap that keeps people from really, truly acquiring wealth. And these are the posers of the world. They're my neighbors or your neighbors who drive really fancy cars. And I don't have a problem with luxury cars. I would love to have a Lexus. My dream car is about a 10-year-old, this is going to sound funny, about a 10-year-old Lexus LS 400. The big one that looks like a battleship. I would love to have one of those cars. I don't want a new one, I want a used one. So I'm not against luxury brands, not at all. But what happens is we have these people who go and they buy that $599 Mercedes lease. I was looking in the paper the other day. $1,200 a month for the top-of-the-line Mercedes lease. They wear Rolex watches. I don't have a problem with Rolex watches. I would love to have a Rolex, but I will have one when I can pay cash for it. They buy expensive watches. They buy expensive suits, expensive clothing out the wazoo. They live what appears to be a lavish life. And all of us puny people, myself included, we think, wow, if I could just be like Joe next door. If I could just be like Jim down the road. If I could just have that Mercedes. If I could just have that BMW. If I could just have that Lexus, all my cares, all my troubles would be gone. I could be like Joe or Jim. Oh, if my wife could drive that brand new Yukon that Joe's wife is, oh, my wife would love me more. Here's the problem with Joe and Jim and everybody else, folks. They're posers. They're one paycheck away from being broke, and you don't know it, but they do. And they feel the stress and the pressure of living that lie. They're posers, and they're fooling us all. They've done it to me. They're doing it to you. People who are listening to me right now, you know someone who is a poser. They're everywhere. And here's what I can tell you. After doing this kind of work for the last 8 or 9 years, there are way more posers posers than there are people who are what I would call the living rich, the working rich. Way more posers, because I see them. They come to me for help. They come to me for investment work, insurance work. They come to me for coaching. And we start looking at the numbers, and I see them driving the expensive Mercedes and the expensive BMW and the expensive Yukon and the expensive Range Rover, and they are broke. And it's their biggest fear that someone's going to find out that they're broke. Those are posers, folks, and they're ruining us all. They're just as bad as the government. The government spends, and we all spend. Posers who live next door to us, who work with us, who go to church with us, who play golf with us, whose kids play sports with your kids, they're living a lie. And we don't even know it. So please, please, stop comparing yourself to the poser, the Jim or the Jerry or the Janie or the Sue or the Mark who lives next door to you or around the corner or works with you and is wearing the fancy watch and driving the fancy car. Stop worrying about the posers because it's a bunch of crap. They're broke. You need your own plan. And it is very simple to develop it. We do it all day long, every single day. It's called intentional planning. And it is so simple, I'm almost ashamed to point it out to people sometimes. 10 steps, folks. 10 steps to financial freedom. That's all it takes. Stop being fooled by the posers. Stop being fooled by the posers. They're just going to keep ruining us. They're just like the government, taking us downhill quickly. Please, folks, don't be fooled by the posers. That's a bunch of crap. Start living like the working rich. Remember, the working rich are people who own simple businesses. Nothing fancy. They don't drive fancy cars. They don't wear fancy clothes. They don't buy fancy watches. They just don't. They live in middle-class homes. They've probably been in that middle-class home for 20 or more years. They invest 15% of their money. Their estates are taken care of. Their families are taken care of. They are, for the most part, debt-free. They don't operate with a lot of debt. They invest 15% minimum to their qualified retirement accounts. They get out of debt as fast as possible so they can build wealth and change their families' lives. That's what it's all about, folks. Remember, normal in America is broke. Don't be normal. Today, make a conscious decision that you're going to do things differently. We're in the Christmas season, Hanukkah season, Kwanzaa season, Festivus season, whatever it is you celebrate. I don't even know. Make a decision this month that you're going to start doing things a little bit differently. Stop behaving like most Americans. Stop being normal. Do something different. Get on the bandwagon where you start living life a little differently. Wouldn't it be nice if you had a little wiggle room? Wouldn't it be nice if you had a little margin in your life? Wouldn't it be nice if you didn't have to sweat and fret and worry every day about the bank account? We can help you with that. You've been listening to the Fran Halloran Show. Thank you so much for your time. We'll be back next week. Please live life intentionally.